So if you're new to crypto on altcoins, we're going to go through essentially what to do. Basics in terms of what to look for, why certain things are important, and you need to kind of strap in. I'm just going to go at it. I'm not going to plan anything. I'm just going to go where my mind takes me in this video. So if you're a beginner and you're thinking, I want to start buying altcoins, or if I want to rebalance my portfolio, this is the video for you. And before we go on, my name is Ash. This is the Learning Crypto channel if you're confused. Press the subscribe button. Every Wednesday, I'm going to aim to do an educational video. This is a good one. Let's talk about the obvious, right? So we need to talk about pairs. You have two things you need to understand. Most of the market, most new people, price everything in USD. That's fine. Dominant currency, that's okay. What you need to remember though, the price point of any asset realistically is all done in Bitcoin. I know. So whenever you look at a price of say BNB or Solana or whatever it may be, how it's got $582 or $166 is how many Satoshis it's worth in value. Now, this is where it gets complicated to strap in. You need to go to the BTC pair. So, for example, if we go to Solana, Solana is currently worth basically 25,000 sats, give or take, right? In terms of that situation, that's kind of, yeah, it's there. But the reality is that is a conversion of $166. How do you know that? If you go onto Google and go Bitcoin to USD, and you will get a calculator kind of appearing, right? And again, as I say, 0.0025550 equals $166. That is what you need to worry about. Now, how do you understand this? Now, when we talk about the basics, we need to understand one thing, really. What type of coin do you want? Why do you want it? And will it, maybe, hopefully, fingers crossed, outperform Bitcoin? That's kind of what we're looking at. So when we talk about altcoins, you then think about narratives. And a lot of people often say, well, it done well in USD, but if Bitcoin's done a 5x in that time period, it's going to do well in USD. You want it to do more than well. You want it to do amazing well. And you want it to win versus Bitcoin and also reflect that even better with a higher price point. For example, recently Solana has done very well in the BTC pair. It's shown in the price, it's gone from like $8 to $166. It's doing well, right? It's also at its all-time high versus Ethereum, which is interesting, right? So all of those become a metric. So let's talk about building a portfolio. This is where it gets interesting, I know. And as I say, if you like this stuff, leave a like. If you like to make a comment and say something productive, do it. If you want to ask a question because you're fucking lost, do it, please. Don't get stuck. As I said before, we Learning Crypto education, all on our website, right? There's memberships, there's all kinds of stuff going on here, and you can always ask in our free Discord. There's a link up here too. Oh, where am I going next? I don't even know. As I say, I've not even planned this video. So, BTC pairs. I've just alluded to it. You need to look at something that's doing relatively okay. Now, obviously, certain price points, it won't matter, but I'm going to give you a tip, and Gaz talked about it in one of the previous videos. Look to see what happened at the start of this year. If the altcoin that you held has not done very well during that time period, maybe time to kind of like put it in the scrap heap, right? You need to think about narratives. You need to think about balancing. Now, what I preach to a lot of people, and everyone, well, not everyone, but some people do disagree with me, don't have too many altcoins because sometimes they get a little bit warped. So my primary thing for you as a new person, or if you're looking to rebalance, is always have Bitcoin. People forget and people look at Bitcoin and go, it's $66,000. I'm not going to make loads of money. It's not about that. It's about preservation of wealth, because you might buy an altcoin and it might do worse in the BTC pair. For example, I'll give you an idea. So imagine if you bought Solana here in, obviously, yes, obvious, into the bear market, but you might buy an altcoin going into a bull market that does this. Now, a great example of this is Chainlink in the prior cycle, right? Prior cycle, during the COVID times, Chainlink did very well. But when the actual market really went freaking bananas, it actually went down. So it would have been better off you not buying Chainlink in that time period, even though in the USD prices it would have reflected a move because it went from whatever to whatever, because Bitcoin did a massive move from 15, no, well, actually lower than that. It was what, 7,000, 6,000 up to 69,000. It was obviously going to reflect, right? So try and find something that's going to do well. So as you can see here, Chainlink didn't do very well in that time period. I wouldn't recommend it. Personal opinion, but hey, I could be wrong. But yeah, that's what you're kind of looking for. You're looking for something that is going to run with altcoin, run with the BTC move, right? So one of my newer investments, I know you can't really see it very well on here because of the stupid chart. Bear with me. La 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 la. Where is it? There we go. ICP did a really good run, and it did all right versus most things. So I liked it. Obviously, right now it's at the lows. That's fine. Other ones, as I've alluded to, obviously, Near Protocol did very well. So what you're looking for is something that's going to run. I'm just giving you some context. But what we need to look at now is what sort of things to buy, what to have. Now, if you're a beginner, you're probably going to get sucked into things. Yes, I know. You're probably going to get sucked into meme coins or runes or random shit. And it happens. I myself get sucked into it. So primary element, have Bitcoin. Your aim is to grow Bitcoin over time. Get as many Satoshis as possible. Whether you are buying altcoins, flipping it for Bitcoin or grow more USD, whatever it may be, your aim is always to have some Bitcoin. It is a wealth preservation tool. In my opinion, you've got to look at the big boys. You've got to have a good slice of those, right? Solana looks like a pretty damn solid option longer term. You've even got, dare I say it, the likes of Dogecoin that could run well in a hype season. Again, remember, altcoins are very cyclical. So you got to look at that as a factor. So what I would say is kind of like when you're rebalancing, like look at the narratives of what you're aiming to have. So do you want a meme coin? Do you want the likes of Bitcoin? Do you want a layer one? Do you want, say, a enterprise blockchain or something, or a layer zero, whatever? And one of the big tips I'll give you, if you go onto CoinMarketCap and press categories, is a lot. So you can see here lending and borrowing, transport, random stuff, I know. Yield farm, oh, I know. But if something genuinely interests you in life, you may want to look at it. Now, personally, in my opinion, I think a lot of them are wishy-washy bollocks in crypto because I don't think it makes sense. What works is users. Do the thing that you want to buy have users. Meme coins pretty much have users. The likes of Solana, because it's an infrastructure to cater for meme coins. Same with Ethereum, same with Bitcoin, with runes and that. So you've got to kind of look at that as an emphasis. And then you've got the ones where the emerging ones, the disruptive nature of the market, which guess what? Might make you a lot of money. So when you go down into the past and you look at certain things, you may look at certain things thinking, you know what, that might do really well. Now, one of the things that I will say is a lot of meme coins that are new, dog with hat on the screen there, has never had a proper bull market. It might actually do very well. It might bring a lot more people to it. Stuff like that is huge. Then you've got infrastructure coins such as exchange coins. Exchange coins may well do well in the bull market because it's going to get more usage. Obviously, yes, more people are using their exchanges to buy their asset, right? That's kind of obvious. So you've got to be very, very mindful. So there's a lot of things to weigh up, but what you need to find is something that is genuinely good. Now, some things that I will say not to kind of go too much on into, if you are looking for certain assets, right? You got a number of data points on here. So you got the market capitalization, right? That's telling you how much they're worth given their circulating supply. Now, there's stuff that is out right now, like such as Sui, for example, ranked 20th. There's only so much of their coin out. And you can see this with this kind of bar on the side here. This only has 27%. I don't know if you can see that with my face in the way, but it's got 27% of its allocation out. That's going to create a bit of scarcity. So it might well go up in price short term, but longer term into the bull market of the futures or into bear markets, whatever, you may find because when all their tokens are eventually out in the next coming years or whenever it is, I think it's 2030, you're going to find that it's going to be, much higher market cap and the price may not reflect that because of that circulating supply. So be mindful. New assets are very, very wishy-washy. Certain points they have hype cycles. Bit&Saw, for example, has done very well in the short term. And you got to look at where it's been. Obviously, you may look at that and think, I should have bought that months ago sort of thing, right? And you kind of look at that thinking, you know what? Full dilution value, it's $11 billion. That's a problem. So in terms of that data, it's going to become very, very hard. And you've got to look at volume. You've got to look at interest. You've got to look at the full dilution value if it doesn't have much circulating supply. And you've got to look at, obviously, what it is. Has it had a bull market before? What's the product? What's the team like? Do they have a good community? Do they have hype? Do they have users, right? Those are all questions, and some things you may be totally unanswered for because it's obvious. Now, I talked about Casper on my Twitter before. People hated the fact that I did it, but I just went, well, what the fuck's happened? It has had a really good run, but ultimately, in terms of the BTC pair, it's really, like, you can't even see it on here. I'll show you on the other chat. It's dropped off like a cliff, right? It doesn't reflect much, as I said before, on the USD pairs, but what I will say is from its all-time low to where it is now, it's up so much, so much. So it's one of those like, well, what's kind of happened? And as I say, I'll prove it to you. If you put in CAS BTC, it's had a really bad couple of weeks in terms of like how it's kind of dropped off a cliff. Now, this is only from the start of the year, but this is kind of, what's happened here? Why is that dropped and why is that reflected so bad? It's mad when you think about it. So you got to look at that as a factor. Obviously, longer term, it obviously has been higher. But you just got to look at the fact, well, things do drop off. And usually, you start seeing this in the BTC pair, it tends to be a bit of a warning sign. So just be mindful of stuff like that. You don't want to buy something that's really dropped off a cliff and down 40, 50% in the BTC pair because that might be a big problem. Anyways, I'm not going to talk too much. I think I've gone too much. But what you need to find is a genuine narrative. And you need to be happy with your research. And I don't want to cherry pick things for you, but there's so many here that could do fantastically well over the course of the next, liquidity cycle. But the main thing you need to worry about is not what Bitcoin's doing. You want to worry about what your altcoin's doing versus Bitcoin. If it's absolutely battering it, brilliant. Because you're going to find that certain things will be really good in the short term and you'll probably make some good gains. But the trick is not to marry your bags. Marry your bags, you get problems. And that's when we get new members because people have lost money. It's the way it is. Anyways, enjoy.